Right, let's go for it. Boeing 757-3, which means it's the slightly longer extended version in this case. Out of Santos Dumont, and the pilot has not realised we are running very low on fuel. 2,100 pounds total. And yeah, for some reason we're not seeing the low fuel caution lights, so I'm going to clear those off. I'm not going to bother switching the altitude round, but I am going to just make a right turn now, 310 degrees, and we'll also increase speed now, and we'll continue climbing. Why not? Let's go for 25,000 feet. Flight level change, let's keep that going, 300 knots. And I'm just going to update my FMC to say we're going to be cruising at flight level 250. Let's just go 25,000. There we go. Okay. So I'm not even going to try looking to land until it's this time. I have been just messing around just before I started recording at Santos Dumont just to see if it's possible in the 7.5. So this tiny little airfield, I say tiny, it's 4,341 feet long, so yeah, pretty small for a 757. Certainly not legit. There is one in the area, but I'm going to completely ignore the tablet. So what we'll do is, hopefully, if we press on here, we can see airports on screen. And if I just push the range out a tad, yeah, so there's SBRJ in blue, that little blue circle. That's where we went from. Got another airfield here, and so yeah, I'm just going to wait until the fuel runs out, which is going to happen pretty quick because we are at climb thrust. And what we can make it happen even quicker is if we just ask for even more speed. And let's have a look. Where's fuel flow? £6,600 per engine. Yes, we are still gaining a bit of height, but you know, when you're in total only got £1,500, that's going to go really quick. And I'm just thinking, do you know what? We can make it go even quicker by doing the following. Failures. Let's create a new failure immediately, because why not? Initiate. Let's see if we can do a search here for fuel. Right, fuel contaminant then, that's as good as any. So left fuel contaminant. Okay. Add failure after. Immediately. Okay. Fuel. And it's going to be a right fuel tank contaminant. Okay. Okay. Right, that's scenario 2. Enable. And that's it. Right, so both the engine, both the fuel tanks are dirty. And we've got a caution. And it looks like they've just shut down. Auto throttle's rolling back, but look at this, EGT's gone way back. N1, fuel flow is down to 0. And so that is that. So that's it, the start of the emergency. Great that we've still got power. I like that the power didn't completely trip out, so that's good. And I guess we're a little too high for the APU. I don't want to lose speed. If the autopilot's still working, let's give ourselves flight level changes on. Autopilot's still on, which is interesting. Auto throttle is gone. Let's disconnect that. Okay. And so flight director on. So what is best glide speed? Well, it's usually flaps up plus a few knots, right? So in the absence of that knowledge, I'm going to go for 220. clearly we're pretty light on the fuel side of things. Right, we've got some emergencies here. Low fuel, which we know, and there's been a fuel contaminant, fuel config, pump switches, pressurizations, in-flight start. I'm not even going to try relighting these guys because, you know, I wanted to do a full engine failure. So what I'm going to do over here is turn the engine start switches off. I'm going to turn the fuel pumps off. And otherwise we'll continue. Just got our MC lights, cabin altitude. Okay, because we're far too high. Alright, we need to descend and fast. I'm also going to try setting myself up to land. Now here we've got Sierra Bravo, Sierra Charlie. So let's have a look at that. And just before we do risk passing out, let's have a look at cabin altitude, which is here. Oh, it's climbing a little too fast, so we're going to need an emergency dive here, so down we go. And let's get below 10. Whereas it's a high MSA. So there's the emergency dive down to 9,000 feet. So what a situation to be in, right? You don't want to lose your height because, well, that's all you've got. But cabin has depressurized, so you must. And we're going to be catching up with that soon. They see differential dropping down very low. Autopilot still feels just a little bit too gentle, so I'm going to dive it myself. And yeah, that's going to be sorting itself out momentarily. I think you've got a few minutes of useful oxygen at 15,000 feet. It's not horrific, but you can see here we're already starting to go dark, so I'm going to keep the dive going. It is sunset as well until we get to about maximum speed. There we go. So let's plug in right around 340. I'm going to put the autopilot back on. And we've just got about 1,100 feet to go, so that's fine. So SBSC, let's see then. Airport information. Okay, that's happy. I'm happy with that. It's a long one, 9,000 feet, and it is heading 047. I'm just going to put that in there to remind me. 047. Do we have and approach an ILS? No. We do, however, have a VOR, so let's grab VOR 5. And it is Santa Cruz 1360. 1360 is in. I'm going to put that manually just so we don't lose it. 1360. And what did we say? 047. And there, that's a nice visual representation of the runway. So there we are, just 10 miles away. And we are now descending through. So what is the MSA for the area? So here we are, that's cheating of course, so I'm going to turn my icon off. Well, if we're to the south of the VOR, it's 5,000 feet. If we venture north, it's all the way up to 7. So let's put 5,000 in. Now the reason I'm going a little quicker is just because I'm confident with the range now. See, we're just about 6 or so miles away. And how are we doing up here? Let's get all the signs on. Packs are off. I don't think the AP will even start, but you know what? It's worth a shot, right? One go. I realise if the fuel's contaminated, it's probably not going to work, but why don't we try it? I'm also going to re-engage the autopilot and reduce speed now because we are well below that, you know, critical 10,000 feet. Interesting that it would choose to climb so aggressively. Very interesting. Whoa, that's a little too much for me, so I'm going to disconnect the autopilot push the nose over. I perhaps pushed it a little too aggressive before. Oh shit. Power's just gone, so let's try the APU start. And hopefully something will come, because we've just lost everything. Right, that's problematic. So, looking at the standby instrumentation, I want to be left. So runway heading was, what does our tablet say? Of course we'd still have the battery on this. Final approach was 047, that was it. So I want to be about 90 degrees off that for now. So that's going to be about 160 degrees, so let's go for it. Right, there's sort of best glide speed around I'm just going to guess around 210, so I'm just going to wind that back to 210. And I'm going to keep the turn going now. We are descending. APU says it's running. Well, let's hope that we've got it. APU gen on, that's great. Right, we're on the downwind leg. Let's just put it there for no other reason than guidance purposes. How far are we away? Well, we've got a 180 degree turn to do behind us, and airfield elevation is just 10 feet. So what we see here is basically what we've got. And we have now broken out the clouds. I'm going to start the turn now. Oh, and the APU's gone. I love that, because the fuel contaminant, right? Of course it would impact the APU as well. So clearly the APU was okay for a few moments, but then once it started drawing in that contaminated fuel, that went as well. And I think the APU served its function just long enough to give us the information we needed. So I'm just going to come to the right. There we go. We need to turn final right now. And we are more or less on best glide speed here. This is the first time gliding this aircraft. I only bought it the other day, so first time for a lot. Actually, it's the first time flying the Dash 300. I flew the Dash, I think it was, yeah, the Dash 2, the President variant anyway, so, you know, those that want improved, there you go, 001, first engine start, we've got ourselves a failure. All sorts of nice lights. Ram air turbine here. Press. Right, we're coming in. I was reading like a sort of a real pilot's cheat sheet for a dual engine failure on a Boeing 737. Apparently it's not really something they train for on the sim, because it's never supposed to happen. And if they do train for dual engine failure, it's always on the proviso that you can get at least one of them relit. Well, if you can't, and again this is just what the pilot's saying, once it's obvious that you can make it to the runway and you are below something like 400 feet AGL, and only then start extending flaps. So I'm going to start putting the slats out just because we're running out of speed a little bit, and they're not really going to work, are they? So let's dump the gear because we need to. And you know what? We're going to fall short, aren't we? We're going to fall short. Right, we've got 3 greens, so thank goodness for that. I'm going to just move the flap levers all the way down just in case we get something, but I don't think we've got anything, and I'm going to start rolling the trim back. Oh, that's not a good placement of a VOR beacon, and I'm pulling the trim back for what it's worth, probably nothing. And that was slammed right into the ground, but you know what? The gears will probably have absorbed a lot of that. Popped tyres, no doubt, were down. Yeah, so I wasn't really happy with that. And, you know, no physical trim wheel either to roll back. Not that I had a spare hand to roll it back, even if I did. You know, I was pulling back on the switches, but obviously they weren't any good. And yeah, when I first started to run out of speed, going back about a couple of minutes, having the slats come out would have prevented me having to pull so much alpha, which would have bled even more speed. I'm convinced if I would have had slats about 30 seconds before we hit the ground, I would have been able to just get a few, you know, like a couple of hundred more yards out of it by not bleeding all that energy with the high angle of attack. And that would have made the runway. I still wouldn't have been able to cushion the landing, but if I'd have been able to just continuously dump the flaps, I think that would have helped to cushion. And as you can see here, you know, we can see here the elevator trim is not at all, you know, where I want it. And in fact, I'm pulling on the stick now and it's doing nothing. So everything that we had has gone, but you can see, yeah, there's no elevator trim. So yeah, upshot is, I don't know. I wouldn't like to guess how that went. Clearly, the undercarriage and everything's knackered. The planes, oh, we did have a ram air turbine drop out, so there was that. But yeah, you can see it didn't help with the flaps or anything. So I'm thinking, I hate to say it, but I'm thinking I don't think everybody would have survived that one. But nor do I think it was a complete disaster. It was, I'm just going to take a stab in the dark here. An 80-20 survival to loss rate there. Let me know what you think.